Morning, Void. How you all doing? I don't know whether I should keep going or stop doing these early morning reports. I guess early morning is subjective. It's almost noon, but I just woke up, so it counts. Anyway, how many times have I said I love Mike Flanagan? Don't act like any of you out there can answer that. That would involve you having to have actually watched all my videos to this point, and most of my videos don't get watched. I know that. But the answer is a lot. Anytime I review something with his, I sing his praises. And I finally got around to seeing the 2017 movie Gerald's Game, an adaptation of the Stephen King book of the same name. And as with his adaptation of Doctor Sleep, Mike Flanagan still seems to be a good go-to for Stephen King adaptations. Now, this is one I had been putting off for a while. I mean, not for any particular reason, but well, I've read the book for Gerald's Game, and I was not sure how well it would translate to film. Because it's a very... It's one of those situation horrors that's easy to write about, but I wasn't sure how well it would film. And, well, it filmed pretty well, actually. So, Gerald's Game stars several of Flanagan's regulars. Oh, let me just double check because it's early and I can't remember much, but I got Carla Gugino again is back, we got Henry Thomas, and of course Kate Siegel, so a lot of his alumni show up in one way, shape, or form. But I was surprised that Kate Siegel didn't get the main role this time. I always assumed she had, but it's actually Carla Gugino who plays Jessie, our lead. Now, this film is also one I wasn't sure how well it would translate, just because of the entirely sexual nature of the film. I mean, it in and of itself, I mean, the situation quickly moves away from that very fast, but it's all based on that. Needy cat. Anyway, so Jessie and her husband are going up to a remote cabin for the weekend to try to reinvigorate their marriage, spice up their love life, and try to get things going. I mean, through the first several scenes, it looks like it's an ideal marriage. But at one point, things do start breaking down, which is the exact point everything really begins. When you realize that under the surface, we really don't know anything about these characters because we've only spent a couple minutes with them. And these characters may not know nearly as much about each other because, despite spending their lives together. So, in order to spice up their love life, Jessie gets handcuffed to the bed, and her husband wants to enact out some scenario that she's not all that comfortable with. Now, her husband's a good amount older than her, and has been taking Viagra, which aggravates his heart condition, and after things don't go well in their role play, well, he has a heart attack and falls off the bed and dies, leaving her stuck handcuffed to the bed with no way out, no neighbors around for about half a mile, and anyone who cleans or maintains the property is probably not going to be there for a good amount of time. Not many people know she's up there. Uh-oh. Make matters worse, a stray feral dog is in the area and finds its way into the house and begins, chewing on the husband's remains. And things get worse at night when the Moonlight Man shows up. Now, then it's going to be hard to film a movie where there's one character sitting in a bed left alone with their thoughts and their flashbacks. This one pulls it off pretty well. I don't remember if the book had... I read this book back in high school, so it's been a long time. I don't remember. I remember a lot of individual scenes from it because the book was memorable. I will say that, and everything I do remember from the book, pretty much, except for a few minor details, is present here. And then I don't remember her in the book, however. It might have happened, but I don't remember her essentially talking to herself and her husband throughout the entire thing. Is essentially she's got, due to her isolation, she's essentially imagining that her husband is there and she's talking to him. And at one point, she imagines getting off the bed, and then herself that does is also talking to her. And they're either and then essentially acting like the angel and devil on her shoulder. I also don't remember the dog from the book. It might have been in there, but I don't recall it. I think that might have been added just to add a little bit of extra level of tension of the problems. I mean, she already has dehydration to be concerned with, and the Moonlight Man, but having also the daytime problem of this dog getting increasingly curious on whether it can eat her. But also, we find out a lot about her past and how she got to this point through her flashbacks, which her other selves are pushing her to remember. Usually to the point of something that'll happen in one of her flashbacks will give her a memory of something she could do to help survive. And I will say it is some very uncomfortable material. I do recall it from the book, but it is not something I was sure they'd actually commit to film, but here we went. As, I suppose, spoiler alert, but it is good to let you know for a trigger warning, this does involve some depictions of child abuse of a sexual nature. She essentially was abused by her father during an eclipse when she was 12, and that does manifest its. I mean, nothing graphic is shown, but they do show some stuff that is disturbing and unsettling. So she has to get out of there, preferably before on the second night the Moonlight Man might come back again, who she's now convinced is death itself. Yeah. So, it's very well put together. The Moonlight Man is very creepy looking. There's some definitely unsettling scenes involving him. What little blood effects there are potent. And definitely a little over the top, but in a good way. I think it adds some spice to an otherwise very calm, well, as horror films go, situations. Because it is mostly one person sitting around talking to themselves, literally, in a bed. But despite that, I never found the film boring. It was quite engaging, and I really did enjoy it. A lot of it comes from Flanagan's directions, and it's definitely a very psychological film. So, I did highly enjoy it, but it does have some trigger warnings for people, so it might, if anyone has gone through any sort of issues, it might hit uncomfortably close to home. But otherwise, I'm definitely rating this one pretty high. I'm going to give it a 7 MacGuffins. It's not one I'm going to come back to very often, but it is still a very enjoyable film. Alright, I think that's really all I got on this one. You got anything else to add? You just purring away? Alright. That's all for both of us then. See you next time, boys.